backwards. I don't want to change the message. I want the message to be delivered in such a way that people are ready to listen to the message. Conservatism is like a 60-carat Cartier ring, which we are trying to sell to people in used Kentucky Fried Chicken boxes. We have to put this ring into a nice little velvet box with a little bow, and you open it up and it's beautiful and it matches. We've got to get a good box around it. We've got to make it interesting. So, how do we make it interesting? Well, here's how I think you make it interesting. I do a lot of Tea Party events. Thank God for the Tea Party. I've done a lot of them. I don't think this country would be here without it. And by the way, the thing I like most about the Tea Party is this. I like the fact that nobody controls the Tea Party. I like the fact that no two Tea Parties are controlled by a central authority. I like the fact that every one of them is independent. But. If somebody said to me, Bill, we want you to take over the Tea Party movement, do whatever you want to, have at it, what would you do? Well, first of all, I would change the name Tea Party. I just changed the name Tea Party. You know why? Because you talk to young people about, hey, you want to come to the Tea Party meeting? They think it's just a bunch of ancient people holding saucers, doing embroidery. Let me give you a clearer example. You go to a Tea Party meeting today, I've been to a few of these, needless to say, and you go to a Tea Party meeting today, in 2013, and more often than not, you'll find a guy dressed up as George Washington or Ben Franklin or Thomas Jefferson, and you'll see him standing there and he'll be wearing the knee stockings, and he'll have the waistcoat and the ruffled shirt, and he'll have the tri-corner hat and the powdered wig, and he'll be holding a musket, and he'll be standing in front of a Gadsden flag. Now when I see that guy, I go, that's awesome, man, that is absolutely awesome. Look at all the trouble that guy went to look like George Washington, because I know who George Washington is. And I know what George Washington did, and I know what Thomas Jefferson said, and I know what Alexander Hamilton believed, and I know what John Adams believed. So when I see these guys dressed up at them, I get it. But kids today are so badly educated, they don't have any idea who these people are or what they did. All they see are middle-aged people dressed up in these outrageous costumes from 300 years ago, standing in front of a flag with a snake on it, talking about having a tea party, and wondering, are you kidding me? You want us, we're 17 years old, you want us to dress up in costumes that are 300 years old and wear pointy hats and powdered wigs and no. So, you have to think about it. You have to be able to readdress the message. So, let's start simply. I happen to have here on my pocket constitution a man who's on the cover, and it is in fact George Washington. And guess what? George Washington is in fact wearing the knee breeches, and he has the frilly little hat. He's not wearing the powdered wig or the tri-corner hat, and he's not holding a musket, but more often than not he is. So the way you start to repackage this message is this, is you say to people, let me tell you something about George Washington. During the Revolutionary War, George Washington sent a letter to a tailor in London, England. He's at war with the British Empire. He sent by secret courier a message, a letter to a tailor in London, England, and I've got this almost verbatim. You know what he said? He said, I would like to purchase 4 waistcoats in the most popular fashion current in London, and of the most pleasing colors. I'd like the buttons to be as ornate as they can be, without appearing ostentatious. And he included a large check. You know why? Because George Washington may have been the best dressed man on planet Earth. George Washington understood that if you were going to be the President of the United States of America, you have to look the part. George Washington was a fashion plate. And so, if George Washington were standing here with me today, George Washington would not be dressed like this. George Washington today, standing here next to me, would be wearing a $20,000 Armani suit, he'd have $2,000 shoes, he'd have a $900 haircut, and instead of a musket, he'd be carrying an AR-15 with a red dot target designator, because George Washington was a deadly, swinging money dude. That's who George Washington is. And that's how George Washington looked to other Americans. And when you start talking to young people about this, they start to get a little bit interested. So if somebody said to me, Bill, we're going to give you the Tea Party, what are you going to do with it? The first thing I'm going to do, out of the gate, is I'm going to say, it's not going to be called the Tea Party anymore. No, you know what? Actually, that's the second thing I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do if I'm in charge of this is, you know the Republican logo? You know, the elephant? Is the Republican logo designed by Barack Obama personally? I'm just curious, because there is nothing that they could do that would more make us look like they want us to look than the Republican GOP logo. It's big, blocky, stupid. It's got a tiny little trunk, no eyes, no vision. It's a giant, it looks like it belongs over a second grade art class. That's our logo that we picked for ourselves. Out, gone, gone. The new logo for the Republican Party is an R, kind of like that is carved into the wall like a knife in a big hurry. So no round thing, just R like this, just a big R like this, and it's all, well, where'd that R come from? I don't know. It was there, just appeared, now it's gone. Who did it? I don't know. Red letters, an R. We're in a big hurry. We're under a lot of pressure. And if I was in charge of the Tea Party, I would rename the Tea Party. I wouldn't call it the Tea Party anymore. You know what I'd call it? I'd call it the Rebel Alliance. I'd call it the Rebel Alliance. And I would wait for some 17, 18-year-old kid to come up to me and say, so what's this Rebel Alliance thing that you guys are all about? What is all that all about? I'd look at him and I'd say, I'm not really allowed to tell you much about it. I really can't. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I can tell you this, though. It's probably not for you. Because you don't get to join the Rebel Alliance and be an idiot. Okay? You don't get to be an idiot in the Rebel Alliance. The first thing you need to understand about the Rebel Alliance is that we're outnumbered. Always outnumbered. Grossly outnumbered. We're outnumbered 100 to 1 on the best day out there. You know why? Because the good, smart, decent people are always outnumbered by the bad people. Always. We're always outnumbered. So you don't get to be an idiot in the Rebel Alliance. Any rotten piece of wood can flow downstream, but if you're going to be in the Rebel Alliance, you got to be able to swim up a river. You got to swim up the river of culture. You got to be fit. You got to understand history. You have to understand economics. You have to understand how things really work instead of the way you want them to work. You probably should go back to your socialist friends over in the Obama camp. Still here? Well, let me tell you one more thing about this Rebel Alliance of ours. It's only through a lifetime of study and our massive, incredible Jedi skills that we are able to get into a couple of beat-up X-Wing fighters and get out there and face wave after wave after wave after wave of Imperial TIE fighters, get through and blow up half of them, get into that Death Star trench, avoid the incoming laser blast from the cannon, line up directly on the exhaust port, pop off a couple of photon torpedoes, get the hell out of there, put them right in the center of that Death Star that is going to destroy this country and blow it the hell up. We're freedom fighters, and you better hope we win. Go back to your Obama speech. Now I think you have their attention. Why? Because for the first time in living memory, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard a conservative speak in the language of the pop culture, which is the language that every American speaks in, the language of movies. Every single movie that's made by Hollywood today, every single thriller anyway, every single action movie has one thing in common. You can count on it, you can take it to the bank. Every single movie that progressive Hollywood makes today, you will find out that the villain of that movie is going to be a white, conservative, male businessman. Every single time. We are the villains in our own mythology, and we wonder why we don't win elections. We wonder why. Let me tell you something interesting. I'm speaking as a screenwriter now. Let me tell you something interesting about the villain. Most people think the story's about the hero, but the hero is not the most interesting person in the story. The villain is the interesting person in every movie. It's the villain that walks into the movie and is perfectly drawn from the beginning. From the first frame, you know who the villain is and what he's about to do. So let's go back to that classic example. We're the villains in our own movies. Let's take the best villain ever written. Let's talk about the best villain ever written. Let's talk about Darth Vader. What is the first thing you saw about Darth Vader when he first appeared in that first movie, which is now movie 3. Let's just not count the first 3. What's the first thing you saw about Darth Vader? He comes through a door that is exploded. There's an explosion. Everybody else is 5'8". He walks through a door. He's 7'3". He's dressed completely in black, and he is wearing a Nazi helmet and a face that looks like a skull. Does anybody have any question whose side this guy is on? Instantly you know who that villain is. Instantly you know he's the bad guy. What's the first thing Darth Vader does in the Star Wars movie in the first one? He walks up to a guy who's just surrendered. He's surrendered, and he picks him up by the neck and holds him up here by the throat Where are the rebel plans? This is a console chip. He crushes the life out of him and throws him away like a piece of garbage. He's a murderer. He doesn't have any respect for anybody. Then he walks into the next room and blows up a planet with 30 billion people on it. A guy like that is worth giving your life for to defeat. A guy like that is a real villain. And people wonder why they didn't vote for Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney was portrayed as a villain from the day Mitt Romney was born. Mitt Romney took over a company that gave my wife cancer. Mitt Romney has all this money and he doesn't care about poor people. He's a villain. And we don't fight back. We just put up with it. So in 2008 and in 2012, the Republican strategy was exactly the same. Both times, instead of making Barack Obama the villain, because he is, both times the Republican Party said, you know what, we can't attack Barack Obama, he's too popular. He's too popular because you don't attack him. No. We're not gonna attack Barack Obama. No. Our strategy for us being villainized for the last 50 years is, our strategy is this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna say, Barack Obama is a good man. He's just doing a bad job. He's a good guy. He's just doing a bad job. So let's apply that to Star Wars, shall we? We've just watched Star Wars as written by the GOP leadership. Obi-Wan Kenobi is sitting there with Luke Skywalker. Ben, what can you tell me about Darth Vader? Well, Luke, he's a good man. He's actually quite a charming fellow. He's just not administering the empire very well is all. You're gonna go fight and die for this? If he's a good man, he's not doing a good job. Why not give him another chance? You have to demonize the villain. And we've been the villain all the time. And we can't unvillainize ourselves. We gotta fight back and point out that they're villains. We gotta point out that they're the villains.